So the longest standing study for health and longevity from the Harvard Adult Development Study since 1938, still ongoing, is that your relationships, the health of your relationships, is the number one predictor to your longevity. That beats diet, that beats exercise, that beats sleep, that beats your socioeconomic status, that beats your wealth. To me, that's incredibly exciting that we actually know what's going to make us live longest and healthiest. The time that you're spending engaging in digital realms and missing out on in-person experiences is not what the human person was designed for.
Welcome to the Live the Path podcast. I'm Dr. Faramarz Hidaji. Today we have a guest that's intrigued me quite a bit over the past few weeks. His name is Andrew Laubacher. He runs a website called humanality.org with the stated mission of helping humans engage reality. Put another way, Andrew helps people get control and get their lives back from digital media. Andrew, thanks for coming and talking to me today. I know your schedule has been very busy over the past few weeks, and with the recent occurrence with the Pope's passing, I know that it even makes it more poignant that you're here to spend time with me. Thank you.
I'm excited to be here with you and dive in.
Excellent. I agree. So, Andrew, I became familiar with you first on the Hallow app. You do a program called Digital Detox. And as a result of that program, it's been personally transformational to me. It's been a very important part of my life. And quite ironically, I've become addicted to Digital Detox. So I was very unhappy when it ran out a couple of days ago. I understand that you had a pivotal moment in your life where you decided to give up smartphones and social media, 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Could you tell me more about what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a millennial, so I had a flip phone in high school. I was on your AOL and MySpace. I would argue actually, as early as my freshman year of high school, I started to experience the detriment of engaging with disembodied relationships online. And, Facebook comes out for me in college and the smartphone in 2010. And I take on all these technologies. I remember I got on Snapchat because a cute girl was on Snapchat. And I'm like, wait, she's just posting her day and I get to watch everything she does all day. Like, I'm in, it's like, it's really the creepiest thing ever, but we just allow people to creep into our day now. But I fastly became addicted to everything myself. And this was early social media smartphones. So, in the name of convenience, we obviously started to realize that convenience was really affecting our capacity for attention, for deep relationship. I felt the social comparison, the pornography addiction, and those things just mounted and mounted. As a touring artist, I was told, like I need to post like 6 times a day at all these different times, all of my life. And yeah, in 2018, I was tired of the depression, anxiety, all the world's problems in the palm of my hand. The comparison, the wasted time scrolling. And I deleted everything in 2018 and went back to a flip phone. And it was an incredibly transforming experience.
So things just kind of came to a head for you, and you did it with a great deal of risk because you were a touring musician, and you were actually risking your career because you were telling me that's how you were supposed to promote yourself. And tell me more about that decision and how you had the courage to make that decision.
Yeah. I mean, I was showing obviously all the shows I was playing all over the world. I mean, my Instagram looked amazing, and I was getting a lot of followers for the time. It wasn't like millions or anything, but, there's a lot of people following me and, built the Facebook and Instagram. And yeah, to me, it was like kind of, you have to play the game, and that's what I did. And then while you're in the game, I realized like the platform itself was affecting, again, my mental health. The funny thing is everything I'm going to articulate probably as we get into like the effects and the trade-offs / consequences of what these social media platforms are doing to the human person, I just kind of innately felt early on. Like there actually wasn't much data at this point. But I remember like leaving Facebook and feeling kind of depressed because like I wasn't, married to a supermodel and didn't have $1 billion, and my body wasn't like some jacked Navy SEAL, So it's like I experienced those things very early on. And kind of slowly, obviously, your Facebook and Instagram began to be what I call pornified and instified. So everything was becoming more instant. They implemented the infinite scroll. And then it was just, ungodly amounts of soft porn, and it was like, eventually it wasn't making me happy. And honestly, that was probably the bottom line is like my life looked amazing online. It really was like my life was really pretty amazing what I was doing and what God was obviously calling me to do. But I didn't feel that because even my life, I was comparing to other people that were playing bigger shows and
Mm.
bigger conferences and had more following. It was never enough. It was multiple compounding factors, but yeah, once I got rid of it all, I got more events.
Mm.
My year, I remember in 2018, I deleted everything. I went all over Canada, South America, coast to coast, America, Europe, all with no social media and a flip phone.
Mm.
So it actually did the opposite. Like everything grew. And then along with that, my friendships got better, my purity improved, my attention span improved. Yeah, I didn't have the world's problems at the palm of my hand. I would say I was addicted to YouTube, news, kind of all your standard compulsive behaviors with the smartphone today, I experienced. Once I stopped being omnipresent, which is just another word for meaning you're everywhere at once. Once I gave that power back to God, it was kind of amazing. Like people would ask me like, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And I'd be like, "No." And they're like, "Whoa." And then like I realized the world didn't end when I didn't know. And that was like this really amazing kind of moment where I was like, oh, wow, I can live my life in my local environment and maybe look at some news or like you'll hear about something from someone, right? It's not like you won't hear anything. And most of the news and entertainment that we hear is completely useless for your life. So here's one thing that I actually found really beneficial is that all that wasted time knowing what the Kardashians were doing or knowing what the president was doing or knowing what this famous person said or this tweet war or this YouTube battle with this liberal and that conservative, like I found out that it literally didn't impact and change my day-to-day actions whatsoever when I did not know what those interactions were.
Yeah. It's out of your control. Most of those things are out of your control.
Yeah. So it was mostly to me an experience on multiple levels. And to me, I'm still kind of unpacking. I'm 7 years into the experiment myself, but it was progressive, right? Like I went social media free to a flip phone, but I still had YouTube and podcasts, and then just overconsumed YouTube and podcasts. And then like started like YouTube to me is the most addictive for many reasons, and I could tell you how they do it. But obviously it can be an incredible tool. Like I realized like people save hundreds of dollars when they learn how to fix a car on YouTube
Right.
or fix their dryer. So there's utility involved. Sadly, most people aren't using it for those specific purposes, right? So I found like, yeah, I kind of started decreasing my podcast time and started really reading books like the primary text. And I knew a lot about a lot of things at a very surface level. And I realized that because I wasn't diving into the depth of the thinkers that I was interested in. So I started to read more. So there's definitely been an evolution of my own internet, social media, addictions, but they've just been progressively becoming better and better, in my life as I've limited my exposure to literally all forms of technology.
Hmm. Yeah, man, so many points are coming up. There's some powerful stuff you brought up. So this thing about how you would think that going online and doing all the things you feel like doing, giving into that would make you feel better, but it left you more isolated, more depressed, feeling less than. So, Jesus says, judge the tree by its fruit. So, and another saying I hear is that if you want to see what the purpose of a system is, see what the system produces. So what's your take on that? Like, if social media and these things are so necessary and good, why is it making everyone depressed and unhappy and angry?
Yeah. So there's a few points to that. I won't be able to unpack that completely, but we can start simply of like why these technologies exist, right? So like to start at the beginning, whether that's your Meta or obviously the beginning of Facebook or even Steve Jobs, all of these platforms utilize what's called, that Gaia Bernstein talks about in her book Unwired, is actually these abusive designs. One simple idea, which I think is good to reflect on, is that we didn't ask for these devices or platforms. These were given to us with no informed consent. You're a physician, you would know that there was no informed consent when these technologies were given to humanity, that here's some possible side effects of what this might do to the human person. So again, we did not ask for these things, they were given to us. Anything that's given to you that is designed has intention behind it. And when you have intention behind design, you actually have to submit to the design, whatever it may be. And that design has implications in your life, right? So even the smartphone, for me, when you hand someone a smartphone, some things you're kind of implying is that this can be instant, or you can see everything you'd like, or yeah, you can know everything happening in the world all in the palm of your hand. It comes with these intentions behind it that we maybe think about, we maybe don't. But even just right away with the device, especially your smartphone, it has come with it designs that are created to keep you engaged on the technology, right? So that's just the hardware, right? Now you get into software with different social media, gaming, pornography, etc. All of these companies deploy strategies from a guy named BJ Fogg, who took a lot of his work. He started the Stanford Persuasive Design Lab. All of your major tech platforms utilize BJ Fogg's work. He essentially studied how machines can manipulate human behavior. A few major ways that he discovered that machines can manipulate human behavior. He, quote, used to say, you need to put hot triggers in front of highly motivated people. So think about your smartphone. Think about the dings, right? Very Pavlovian in nature. That's some habitual conditioning just from the ring from your device. And then you have the color. So even the red color, the blue, you add a ping, a color, and a vibration, and you get a habit-forming behavior.
Right.
So even just from the device, right? Like they engineered these things to be glued to us. And then again, all of your big tech platforms, this is Facebook, obviously now Meta, this is your Google's. Two major mechanisms that keep us glued to our social media feeds was actually discovered by B.F. Skinner in the 60s and then shown again by Dr. Bruce Alexander, a Canadian psychologist in the 70s, actually showed that the intermittent positive feedback, or this variable reward system of not knowing what's next and then getting that dopamine hit. Dopamine, right, is just this feel-good pleasure response in the nucleus accumbens, I believe, that is good. Like we need that to eat, to have sex, to reproduce, to live. But these technologies exploit that specifically through these different modalities. So just think on your Instagram feed, every time you have a new image, a new story, a new video, that is releasing dopamine in the brain. And Dr. Kardaras actually talks about this. The reason why that feels good in the moment is because we're social animals. So we are social animals. This is actually what we think about most. Dr. Daniel Lieberman, UCLA, actually talks about how when the brain actually stops doing a task, our default mode is actually to start thinking about people, to start thinking about social things. So it's almost this automatic brain trigger that is going to start thinking socially. And your Instagram and Facebook and whatever your social media feed is the greatest drug on the planet to give you the dopamine of the experience of watching your friends or random people do everything you can ever imagine, right? So think about intermittent positive feedback. Think about those habit-forming dings, pings, and rings. Right. And then add on to that the social approval, this social validation feedback loop that guys like Sean Parker, who is one of the founding, I think, strategic growth officers for Facebook, shared. Like as a hacker himself, he knew that people really liked themselves and really liked to be liked. And that like button, I think it was also called the awesome button at one point. And that red like thumbs up validation experience is so dopaminergic in nature. This is why when I would post, when you post, you look back pretty immediately after your post and see if you got likes, comments, responses. And that neurologically starts this whole feedback loop where you literally get trained to feel good when you see the social validation of your post. Another way they keep us hooked through this is actually through negative emotion. So negative emotion resides longer in the human person, and negative emotion is more engaging. So you have to remember, like, the technology in 2010 is very different 2025. Like Facebook early days did not have infinite feed. The algorithm news feed was not what it is today. I mean, all of these technologies are a completely different beast, utilized by, BJ Fogg's work and Nir Eyal, who also wrote a book on how to be hooked. He essentially wrote the book for big tech on how to deploy these tactics in technology to alter people's behaviors, thoughts, and relationships. So yeah, this whole concoction, is now in the palm of your hand. And every time you hear a ding ping, you get a message, you get an email, you get a newsreel, you'll notice that obviously most of your news feeds now are extremely pornified and negative. And again, the name of the game is engagement. So the longer your eyeballs stay on that app, which is not free, it's actually costing you an incredible amount of time.
Right.
And the way that they make money, 2023, I believe, Meta's revenue, 43% of their revenue was $60 billion. So these are the richest companies that have ever existed in the world, and they are making money by monetizing you through making you think you're free when in fact you are being manipulated through highly sophisticated psychological tactics that have been used in many different scientific fields. So anyway, that's a quick synopsis.
Wow. Man, you've just given me 5 books to read. I appreciate that. So, that was quite an exposition. I'm really glad we got that on record because I'm going to go back and have to re-listen to that. You gave us so much information. But as you closed, the thing that kept occurring to me is, if you don't want to discuss this, I'm okay. But this sure sounds Luciferian to me. This
100%.
subliminal thing that we all take for granted. We think we're getting a benefit. We think it's free. And meanwhile, it's literally taking the most precious resource we have, which is our time, our attention, our focus.
Yeah, diabolos, the demonic, it means to scatter, right? But what these technologies are doing as a whole, which we're seeing on a very large scale, Dr. Vivek Murthy, who was the Surgeon General last year, I don't think he is anymore. He asked for warning labels on social media platforms, just like they did for cigarettes. He wrote a book called Together, and goes through all the data. 60% of Americans feel incredibly lonely. 68% of Gen Z feels like no one knows them or gets them. So what's crazy is actually the hyperconnectivity, your Reddit, your YouTube, your comment sections, name the dark web, Facebook, whatever. The hyperconnectivity is actually making us more lonely than ever. And all the data is pointing to we're in a loneliness epidemic. I'm really deep in the health and wellness world, and I want to help people be healthy as a human person. And I believe obviously the loneliness is connected to the engagement on the screen. I think I'm just going to keep blasting you with books because I feel like you're maybe going to read them. But I think it's Max Fisher's book, The Chaos of the Machine. He talks about how essentially, when Facebook came out early days, it was like people had about 36 minutes on average, I think it's maybe 2011, of social time. Once these new algorithms came out, it was normally 40 minutes of socialized time, and actually 36 of those minutes began to be used on Facebook. So really what we're seeing is, while people think that they're connecting and maybe they're getting great new stuff on Facebook Marketplace or finding their group or their cohort, or like it's intertwined with really good things, right? So it's really hard to articulate this, but to me, what's actually more clear with all these platforms and all our hyperconnectivity, it is net negative for most human beings.
Yep.
So most people don't have the capacity to use it as a tool because, again, they're not designed to be moderated. That's one really key feature I need to share, is that when people say, well, we need everything in moderation, it's like, that's not that good of a line, considering, like, I don't think people should moderate heroin or fentanyl.
Right.
Like, you should stay away from those.
Right.
It's a net negative experience. I actually think with the data we have now, which we did not know 5 years ago, which we did not know 10 years ago, I can say with pretty high level confidence, your life will be better not engaging in these platforms. Like, full stop, which I know is like really tough because everyone's, we're stuck on these things. So that's called a network effect. And that's called a collective action issue. All these people are on Instagram, so it's really hard not to be there when you're trying to share your thing or your product or your story or whatever. So I get we're all stuck. I'd say I want to help free people from that illusion and that scattering effect, that demonic effect. Because actually, in-person relationships are the #1 predictor for your longevity. So the longest standing study for health and longevity from the Harvard Adult Development Study since 1938, still ongoing, is that your relationships, the health of your relationships, is the #1 predictor to your longevity. That beats diet, that beats exercise, that beats sleep, that beats your socioeconomic status, that beats your wealth. But to me, that's incredibly exciting that we actually know what's going to make us live longest and healthiest. The time that you're spending engaging in digital realms and missing out on in-person experiences is not what the human person was designed for. So anyway, that's what came to mind when you're talking about the the demonic. I mean, it literally means to scatter. And what's so funny is while we become hyper connected, we are the loneliest we've ever been as a society.
Yep. Yeah, man, excellent points. And the scary thing about what you've been talking about is most of it's subliminal. Most of it's invisible. It's very hard even from you can fall for it very easily. I
Totally.
I do some posting on TikTok and they're always trying to get you to buy ads to boost your things. I don't do that.
Uh-huh.
But I saw something ingenious that even got me. I mean, even as skeptical as I am about these things, I was just
Uh-huh.
scrolling and up popped a post of mine. So it's showing me my own post.
Mm.
And just as if I just randomly run into my own post. And then the bottom it says, this is how you would appear if to other people as you boost if you boost your post. And man,
Wow.
I couldn't halt the little dopamine blip that happened. I'm like, oh, really? People could see me on TikTok and man, I
Mm-hmm.
look pretty good. And oh, that
Mm-hmm.
feels, and before I realized, oh my God, they're working me, even as informed and smart as I am about these things, it even
Mm-hmm.
got me. So it is ingenious and in a Luciferian way. I don't know if it's people sitting in a room thinking how we're going to do evil, but it just seems like if you get a group of people together, you tell them, all right, how are we going to make money?
Mm-hmm.
Sooner or later, it kind of comes around to this, just because we are corrupt on the inside. We're
Totally.
sinful.
And all the stories of all these big tech companies is that they wouldn't know what concupiscence is, but it's the inclination towards missing the mark. There's a few books out, obviously in that realm too, kind of unpacking. Facebook had a mantra that was like move fast and break things. I feel like I actually probably know more about what their platforms have done to the human person in society than they know.
Yeah.
Right, like they willingly don't know. And there's a few journalists that have been diving deep into this, but they do know that their algorithms are harming young girls specifically. Meta knows there's internal documents from Frances Hoggins in 2021 that shared that they do know that their algorithms are increasing suicidality, self harm, and body image issues and eating disorders amongst young girls.
Mm.
I mean, that's not in question anymore. There's way more to the story than just that, but they do know their algorithms are literally ruining girls' lives. So girls and guys have very different experiences. Men and women have very different experiences on social media platforms. Men usually tend to struggle more with the gaming pornography side, women with the social media side. Dr. Jonathan Haidt, talks about this in The Anxious Generation that, women are more communal creatures, more relational. They're way more emotionally intelligent than most men. And men want agency. We want to act on something. We see a castle of sand on the beach and we want to like elbow that thing to the ground,
Mm.
like we want to enact on reality.
Mm.
Women want to talk about it and relate to it. And those platforms are literally crack cocaine for women specifically. But that's the thing. They do know that these things are harming women, I'd say of all ages. It just looks different for each generation. And they did not change the algorithm because it would decrease engagement. And they said that. So it is hard at this point to have any type of, oh, they didn't really know what they're doing. They're just trying to make money. It's like
Mm.
we're kind of past that at this point. Like it's definitely nefarious, and they know it. And I don't want to judge people, but I can judge the acts of businesses. And I'd say the business incentives, again, are not to get you into reality, to get you with your friends, to have you learn to read and to make music and to learn new recipes. The whole platforms and technologies exist to literally consume as much time as possible of your life. So there's a whole bunch more to dive into there of the effects slash consequences. But the reality is they do know to a certain extent what these algorithms are doing and they're not willing to change them.
Yeah, and I agree with you that its effect is very deleterious, and they are shortening lives, they're breaking up marriages, and the metaphor came to mind for me that if you're a parent of a toddler, a 2 or 3 year old, and what you spent your time with when you were with this child, the entire time was trying to pull the child's attention towards you. So all day long you followed the kid around, whatever the kid was doing, you distracted him so that the kid could
Mm-hmm.
focus on you as a parent. I think that kid would grow up to be a pretty imbalanced person. But that's precisely what they're doing. As early as I've got grandkids that are 3 years old, and
Mm-hmm.
one of them knows how to operate a smartphone better than I do.
Totally.
And within earshot of the parents, they're watching and
Mm-hmm.
they're good parents, but this The way that this is kind of, like you said, thrust on us with no instructions, you could sit back and say, well, they're not trying to do badly. They don't wake up in the morning and say, how many women can I turn into anorexics today? But if that's the result and you're not doing anything about it, then it's hard not to be judgmental, I think.
Totally. And at this point, again, they're making so much money, it's incomprehensible. So I don't actually blame them. Like, they're making so much money. How do you tell someone making $1 trillion a year to like turn down the algorithm a little bit,
Mm,
or what, like, and no one even really knows what the algorithm is. It's a black box. Like, no one actually knows what these things are. We just see the effects.
right.
It's kind of like gravity. We kind of know what gravity is. We don't actually really know what it is, but we see its effects. And I felt it in my own life. And I know, like, everywhere I go around the country speaking about this, the students in our humanality clubs around the country, I call them villages. I mean, I hear this stuff on a regular basis. So I'm really kind of here to, really unpack the sociological, psychological, physical, spiritual impacts, like even just our sedentary living. The average American is now indoors 93 to
Mm,
96% of their day, when 100 years ago is the complete opposite. The sunlight is an incredibly healing modality input that we do not get at all anymore because of our technology. So it's really weird because it's like I sit on a computer while I'm growing this business to help people get off of their phones and media and tech. And I have to be using technology every day. And I think that's the kind of balance I am kind of trying to strike. Like,
mm,
we aren't Luddites. I'm not Amish. I use technology every day, but I use it incredibly intentionally. And I set incredible limits on
mm,
what I even engage in. So for most people, they just don't even really know the extent of what's happening. So I'm kind of,
right.
okay, I think I can help give the why behind your infinite doom scrolling, why you're losing sleep, why you feel like you don't have really any relationships, why you're addicted to pornography. Like, I can unpack the why. And then actually our Humanity Villages, we're essentially going to launch to the world here very soon. So
Mm.
anyone can get together, and we put together an 11-part, series of curriculum all on these 11 humanality ways to be more human. Some of these are in the digital detox, but this is a way deeper dive. And
Human
my hope,
villages, you said? I'm sorry.
yeah, humanality villages. So the idea is that, like, families, teens, young adults will get together at someone's home,
Mm,
as many people as they want to get together. They watch an episode and then literally will take on these challenges each
mm,
week, kind of like for the detox, a phone-free meals, giving your phone a digital bedtime, learn a new recipe, go on a phone-free hike. We literally have a whole detox protocol now that anyone can go through with a group of people in person. So that's, to me, the value skew that no one else is really doing. Like, I love that you really enjoyed the digital detox, and now it's like you can get a group of your peers, your physicians, your family, and go through this together as a village.
mm.
And so I see a lot of hope, honestly, on the horizon, because there's a lot of people, I think, waking up to what's happening. Sadly, I think this is going to probably take the rest of my life. Kids as young as, obviously, 7 to 9 years old are getting smartphones. So
Yeah.
people are still not really aware of the data. So anyway, that might be too soon, but that's a little tidbit of some hope
Yeah, yeah. You've got a
throughout all
lot of work
this.
to do. And I'm actually going to address that swimming against the tidal wave must feel to you.
Mm-hmm.
You said something very key there, and that is getting aware of what's going on as the first step. So that's what you're giving people is awareness, and they can
100%.
take it and use it or not. But
Totally.
without awareness, we're just kind of swimming in the dark. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I can't force people to live any other way than what they decide to choose. But when you find out that big tech is purposely manipulating your thoughts,
Mm,
behaviors, and the way you relate to other human beings, I don't think you're going to want to submit to their scroll every day. Like, I,
mm,
I don't like being used. I don't like being controlled. I like being free.
mm.
And anytime a person is engaging in these platforms, even if you're trying to do something good on them, this is what's kind of sad. Marshall McLuhan obviously shared this famous saying, the medium is the message, right? So the medium is the message. In these scrolls, I just found that even if someone was sharing the most amazing thing, like, that's just another, like, the next scroll hits and that is completely forgotten. The medium is so corrupted that I don't think it's actually a proper way to disseminate information. I think podcasts like this are a great way. I think books and magazines and in-person conversation. I have never heard of someone's comment wars that went on for 100 threads on Facebook
Uh,
bring about any fruit in anyone's life,
right, right.
So I think prioritizing
there's a thin veneer. It's like lipstick on a pig, oh, we're doing good. Look at how much, this is,
Right.
but you're right. It doesn't take much scratching to realize that there's a very dark underbelly to all of this.
Yeah, the medium is corrupted. So I think there's other ways. Like this has been a nuanced conversation that people can listen into. That my hope is that when people listen to a podcast that I'm on, that it's not just entertainment. I agree with Neil Postman, who wrote in his book Amusing Ourselves to Death, that we are amusing ourselves to death. And that I think the
Yeah.
main point I want to share with people is that honestly, in order to be like happy, you can actually make more money. You can make more impactful business, decisions. You can make more impactful relationship decisions. When you get your time back and you start thinking autonomously again without having to deal with so many other minds, like we were not designed to have access to this many minds. And that's just like one reality that I just don't think we think about enough. I really don't listen to many podcasts anymore. It's very intentional, very targeted. Try and sit down and take notes and learn, because again, there's just too much content. The brain was not designed for this amount of inputs. We exceeded that in about 1960. This is in Nicholas Carr's book called The Shallows. He said in 1960, the bits of information that we could experience and actually digest was already being exceeded in 1960s. Imagine 2025. The amount of information that one human being encounters in a day, it's absurd, So here's the funny thing. The more I believe, I call it a minimal effective dose. I don't know if I talked about this in my detox, but
I didn't hear about it.
it's a similar notion to the physical workout world, right? The idea is like, what's the minimal effective workout I can get to get the most benefit, right? So the 7-minute workout is like 30 seconds on push-ups, 10-second break, 30 seconds on jumping jacks, whatever. You can do it for 7 minutes. That's going to give you cardiovascular benefit, improve your insulin sensitivity, obviously help with weight loss, blah, blah, blah. So for me, my corollary is like in the technology realm, what is the minimal effective dose of technology that you can use in your life to give you the most benefit without all the harm that goes with it? And for me, it's honestly like I read articles, I do my emails and Zoom calls, and that's really what my technology looks like. I use what's called a light phone. So I'm actually at the light phone headquarters right now in Brooklyn, New York. And this is my cell phone. So you can kind of see, it's a little bright and weird, but it's literally just the tools. It has a phone, an alarm clock, a camera, directions, and a hotspot. And it's an incredible tool. And every excuse that we all have, which is real, like everything now needs a smartphone, from your garage door opener to parking to restaurants. You can hack around most of these things, but I noticed that I just couldn't even handle a smartphone. It was just too much inputs, and then too many text threads, and then too many emails, and then I was addicted to the Weather Channel because I just would get bored, and then I would just start scrolling the Weather Channel.
Yeah, and that the biggest thing about that device is it's not trying to manipulate you.
Totally. This thing, when I want to use it, I use it. It's again, I like it more than an instrument. I've been a musician most of my life, right? The instrument doesn't follow me. Like, it doesn't call to me. Like, when I pick up my instrument to play it, I play it. When I'm done playing it, the guitar goes down and it's not yelling at me,
Right. Wow. Yeah, I got to figure out how to make that shift myself. I'm on call right now, for example, and I access medical records. They give me information. But you have intrigued me enough that I'm going to try to figure out how to do that, because and this is a good place to segue into the digital detox program itself. And I'll tell you, I'll start by explaining how it affected me. You've probably heard this story a million times by now, but I was kind of a big Twitter buff. I was involved with the election and was starting to engage people. I got a little bit of a following, and it was taking up hours of my day. And that and cable news, listening in my car to that. You inspired me with the digital detox program on Hallow, and I wasn't looking for it. It just popped up when I got on Hallow. I actually started doing Hallow for Lent, and and I started following it. I said, what the heck? So with my morning routine, I just added your 10 to 15 minute episode with each morning, and just added it in when I was meditating. I would just listen to it. So here's what it created in me in a very short time. First of all, the mental noise, it was like somebody turned the volume down.
Wow.
It just, mine started getting quieter. And I thought, well, okay, that makes sense. I'm just not inputting all this stuff anymore. I started sleeping better. I found myself with more energy. I could work and focus better. So these are now, and a few things happened that I I can't really explain it. I certainly didn't expect it. So I'm a certified yoga instructor. I was deep into it about 4 years ago, and I kind of gave it up, and I actually stopped working out. I used to lift weights. I used to do a lot of things. Somehow, as part of this process, and I don't know if we can attribute it all to digital detox, but
Yeah.
I've started working out again. I've started doing yoga again. I'm losing weight.
Awesome, dude.
I've taken on a carnivore diet recently, which has transformed the way I feel every day. My mental focus, the speed that I type, all these things are improving. And so it was this kind of cumulative effect, this kind of snowballing that happened that started with digital detox. And so, man, I'm truly grateful to you. And I want to inspire as many people to just give this thing a try. It's not
That's
painful,
awesome.
it's something amazing that happens, and it will blow you away with the things that happen that you don't even expect.
Dude, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I wrote that, and I had no idea, obviously, who's going to listen to this, who's even going to take this on. It's cool to see some fruit, and like one point to your exercise, I think it totally makes sense because it's not necessarily just what we're consuming. Most people, when they're in Twitter wars and things of that nature, are sedentary.
Hmm.
They're usually not working out and like running
Right.
outside and scrolling Facebook. So most of our digital interactions are increasing our sedentary living, which again, we were normally moving about, 10 to 12 hours a day, 6.5 days a week, 50 weeks out of the year with 2.5 hours of leisure time. That's from Anna Lemke's book, Dopamine Nation. And
Mhm.
obviously now we have about 5.5 hours of leisure a day. And we just, all the time saving technologies like your car, train, airplane, washing machine, Instapot, we have all the time we've gotten back, we have just reinvested into wasted time on our
Yeah,
devices. So
absolutely.
what you're sharing, it isn't weird and honestly is super normal. And that's what most people are experiencing is that those digital engagements where you get sucked into whatever you're getting sucked into are sedentary,
Mm.
so it makes perfect sense. But what you point to at the end there, there is legit withdrawal. So I'm not a clinician, I'm not a psychologist. I'm studying this stuff deeply. I do have a national board certification in health and wellness coaching, so I am interested in behavior change science. But all the psychology I read on this is that in 2013 in the DSM is now behavioral addictions.
Mhm.
So that's going to take a while for you know, social media and stuff to get in there, but there's plenty of internet addiction resources out there, clinicians, scientists, PhDs that are saying like this is a real addiction that is literally looking, when you look at the brain at fMRI scans and show internet addicted users or gamers, it is literally decreasing gray matter in the prefrontal cortex and the
Mm.
DGM, and the myelination is being shrunk. It is looking very similar to what drug addicts,
Right.
looked like, the same brain chemistry. So when people are like, oh, I felt like withdrawals, it's like, it's not a joke. I actually kind of remember feeling that. I had like phantom checking, right? Because
Mm.
we're just used to checking the device 352 to 2,000 times a day. It's a legit digital detox. You are actually going to withdraw. Some
Mm.
symptoms are pretty severe. Like I know kids that have legit full on panic attacks when they are separated from the device at all you
Oh,
know
heck yeah.
it's called nomophobia is actually the name of the clinical diagnosis of being afraid of being away from your smartphone. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really hard and it's terrifying, and you feel like, maybe one last thing, and again, I could talk about this forever, but you're literally I'm really interested and I'm very shallow on this. Like, I really want to increase my learning in this portion specifically of what's happening. But as creatures that identify with a self, like our projections of ourself and our identity are being portrayed in a way that have never happened in the history of the world, right?
Mm.
So when I've deleted my social media, there was a part of me, this is like Richard Schwartz, with internal family systems is the name of his psychological school of thought, but he
Mm.
talks about parts. Most people talk like this all the time. Like, part of me really wants to go to this party, but part of me really doesn't. There's like parts in us, and it's actually kind of Trinitarian. God is a trinity in three persons in one nature. Like, there's actually something really cool with that connection. But I think with how we are portraying our parts and our personhood and our self in these digital projections that are posted to the world, like, there is something very deep happening with how we are identifying ourselves, that when you delete these things, it does feel like a part of yourself kind of dies.
Mhm.
Like the way that people perceived me, flying all over the world, playing these big conferences. Like, I remember I played this massive conference in 2020. It was the biggest show of my life. It was like 10,000 people. and I deleted my social media now 2 years, but I specifically remember feeling like, man, this post would have been amazing. You know, those girls that like I'm kind of interested in, like they would have loved that picture and I would have, gained some status there. Like I felt that icky thing in me that like just really wanted self-validation that like, dude, you made it, bro. Like you're playing this huge arena. And that was another moment where I was like, ooh, yeah, this stuff's not good.
Yeah, and actually, that saying that. So you didn't record the concert, right? You were off social media
No,
at
I
that
didn't
point,
know. I was off social media for
right?
2 years, but I
So
felt it.
there's data that if you record something, that actually you're not making the memory. So
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
actually quite paradoxically, by trying to save the memory, by trying to save the experience, you're actually not living it.
Yeah,
So
there's a bunch of data. I think it's a 2014 study. I know what you're referencing. I think it was at Harvard. Physician essentially showed that memory consolidation is diminished when you're looking through a screen and
yeah,
taking a picture.
yeah,
And I remember a kid and actually, and I'm going to Rome and I guarantee you, like, everyone's going to be on their phone taking pictures. I was in the Holy Land in 2020 before COVID. The holiest places in the world for people with a religious tradition to your major faith traditions, like walked in to the holiest places. And I get, like, I don't shame people for this because I did this myself, but you walk into the most amazing thing just with the camera on filming and but you're not there. And
right,
then you're memorializing. There's something in the human person that is deeply concerned with memorializing. And I
mm,
found that women, again, are a little bit more sensitive to this, like way more than most men. They really want to memorialize everything,
mm,
take pictures of everything. But the funny thing was, teens do that too. I did that almost for everything. It was my meal, it was a friend, it was a concert, it was a surf day. Everything had to be memorialized to be lived again later. And then, yeah, you kind of miss out. So I'm like, dude,
mm,
I'm really hoping to help people live their life and not have to post it. And it's
yeah,
like the most freeing thing to just live like a human,
yeah,
because this isn't human. What we're living is not human. I personally, the end game for a lot of these big tech giants is a transhumanist movement, which means that they
yes,
want to put their brains
100%.
into AI and live forever. I honestly think that experiment's obviously going to go horrible. And something about mortality actually allows me to live my life to the full. And obviously, with faith, death doesn't have to be a scary thing. But I think, obviously, Billy Graham said this great quote I've used for years. He said that technology has given us the illusion that we are immortal,
Right.
right? It's all illusory,
Yep.
but we're all going to die. Like, this is
That's
all going
right.
to end.
That's right.
This is all
And
going to go to dust.
and if you believe that you can cryo your brain and hook up to a supercomputer, by default, you're turning away from God. I mean, there's no way
Totally.
to have both of those things make sense.
Totally.
So,
Yeah. And anyone's faith tradition, I would too just encourage people like, yeah, the average 18-year-old, I think I quote this in a detox, but your average 18-year-old is on pace with a 90-year lifespan. If you were to break down their lives into months, a 30-year life is asleep. There's a certain amount of months doing chores, a certain amount of months working. There's 334 months of your free time. That is where you create a legacy, where you fall in love, where you write a book, where you travel the world. 93% of those 334 months are going to be spent on a screen, which is going to add up to 27 years of their life,
yeah,
like this. So my hope is that I can help people in the short time that we'll all exist here, to not have 27 years of this, but to have 27 years of this.
yeah. Wow. Simple. That's very simple and very beautiful. I could literally talk to you all day about this. I want to cover a couple of things about digital detox in particular, and then
Yeah,
maybe
let's
you
do
can
it.
tell me a little bit about humanality. So
Yep.
a couple of the very stunning things that I ran into in that program. One was your discussion of the Apple logo, which funny
Yeah.
enough had never occurred to me. I always thought it was, wow, what a great logo. But they've literally got the forbidden fruit with a bite out of it on the back
Totally.
of every other device. Pretty amazing that they'd be that bold.
Totally. Yeah. And I do think, again, we referenced it earlier, but the desire in the garden was to be like God. And we are all participating in a power of God, namely his omnipresence. And the funny thing is, I feel like with the omnipresence comes the temptation of omnibenevolence, thinking that we need to be all loving to all of the problems. I remember feeling this myself, like, you start seeing everything horrible happening in the world all on your feed, and it's like you feel like you need to save the world,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can't. So you're omnipresent. It definitely tempts you to think you could become omnibenevolent, And then because this is such a powerful alchemy, magic, this smartphone and the internet, essentially, it makes us think that we are omnipotent. We're all powerful. And those temptations are incredibly real. And the more I think you can give away your omnipresence, now I realize for people's work and jobs, some people need to know about the tariffs happening or about world markets or whatever. That doesn't mean you have to like completely disengage. But again, that minimal effective dose, like, is it 10 minutes of the news, or can you look at, or can you find some source where you get your bullet points of what's happening in the world where you can dive in? And again, not get sucked in like you and me to like just endless newsreels. I got totally sucked into the election last year on YouTube, and it was a total waste of time.
Right. Yeah. And they don't have any respect for, I mean, basically the news, again, is just trying to grab your attention. It's not as if they set out to, how can we help the people we serve? It
100%.
really all comes down to the same thing, eyes on them.
Mhm.
So you're right. And I have not missed it for 5 minutes. I was very politically involved. And you turn it on for 30 seconds, you realize they're having the same conversation they were having 6 months ago. It's exactly the same. It's hilarious.
Totally.
Let's talk about episode 25. That's another one that just literally stopped me in my tracks. So up to then, the program was about bettering yourself, getting control of your life back, and saving your own life, controlling media. That chapter, that episode, I don't know if you remember specifically what it was, but it was the one about how people who mine the cobalt and the lithium, people who assemble these phones, how they suffer for us to be able to have $100 iPhone. And that I listened to that and re-listened to it because I'd never even thought about that. I thought, well, these are just businesses, they're giving people jobs and all that. But it's not a level playing field, and we are causing suffering with our selfishness and our self-absorbedness and our need to have these devices. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, so we don't. Yeah, the reality is that these cobalt, mining in the Congo and these other places around the world are kind of called instead of blood diamonds, now it's kind of blood cobalt. Like they're really wreaking havoc around the world in these different locations for these minerals, and it's affecting an incredible amount of children who are getting sucked into this. And so the idea that we need a new iPhone, yeah, one basic hack that you can fight against this is just not buy the new iPhone every year. Like use the phone for 10 years if you can, or whatever. Like use it as long as you can, or again, switch to a light phone or a Wise phone by Techless. There's other options that these companies are not destroying the planet or destroying people's lives. The other one that's I'll quickly comment on is what's called moderators. So the only reason that your feed actually isn't as bad as it could be, even though your feed is horribly toxic, there are people around the world that literally watch all day the worst things humanity can offer on a screen. Your rapings, killings, child molestation, like hate, you name it. Like their whole day in Bangladesh and Thailand and you name it is looking at a screen, looking through all those videos so you don't have to see as many. Now they're being paid horribly, and the psychological fallout of these people's lives staring at this stuff every day, it's destroying their psychological health. I mean, they literally have PTSD. So that's another reason, honestly, just to opt out. Like that's the kind of message we kind of want to share is like, when you start to dive deeper, see how they're operating, see their effects, it's a tough decision, but when you opt out, I really do believe you are going to help more people by opting out of a lot of these technologies till maybe there's some other companies that exist that respect the earth, the human person, and our human mind.
Yeah, I don't think that the battle between good and evil is never going to end,
Totally.
but you have to fight it every day. But you can pick the side that you're on at least.
Totally.
So maybe a few action steps if you can. The digital detox program was 4 weeks long and it was chock full of stuff, 10 to 15 minutes a day. I found it to be transformational. But could you tell us if our audience is out there and they're just thinking, well, this sounds attractive, I'm not sure how to get started. What would you tell someone that wants to get started on a detox?
Totally. Yeah, and that's the thing is like we're using a good technology that is Hallow to help you begin that journey. So I do think the Hallow Detox is a great start. I kind of ease you into it. It gets, after 7 days, it gets a little bit more intense, but it's I think really doable. It's a great place to start. And then you start to realize, one, how addicted you are. And then again, start to learn some of the things we've unpacked today. I'd say the next step, which will probably be ready in the next month or two. So I would just stay in touch with our website is our main source of communication, humanality.org. But we're going to have these villages that we've launched around the country at universities the last 2 years available for the general public. So this is a way deeper dive. Again, this is like health and wellness. We're helping with your light environment, with your sleep, with your social connection, with movement, your nutrition. Again, when you are watching technology and Netflixing and scrolling, you are going to be eating the average of 30% more calories just because it's mindless, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're really, yeah, we're real honestly kind of helping everything. So Neil Postman said that a new technology doesn't just change this or that. It changes everything. So we're kind of unpacking these 11 ways are like be outside, be moving, be present, be light, be connected. They're all unpacking the problems that no one really knows about, but they feel, and then giving them real solutions. And the whole point of this is that you do this with a village. So you meet in person with your family, with your friends. It's universal principles. This is what I'm so excited about. It's like, if you're 90 years old, you need this. 6 out of 10 Americans have one or more chronic disease. 40.9% of Americans are going to have cancer in their life. Like, we are not living like humans, largely due to our technologies. So our hope is to help unpack some of this data, help get you healthy again, like literally get your happiness back when you realize it's connected to your sleep, to your movement, to your social relationships. So really, I would encourage everyone to launch a Humanality Village. All you do is go to our website. And again, that'll be ready. My hope is like end of May, realistically, 2025, people listening to this. And that's going to be your best, I'd say, chance at really creating lasting change. Here's my one caveat. You have to get to the root of the issue, right? There's decent apps. There's software you can use to block and time limit. I remember when I had screen time, I would finish my 15 minutes and turn the thing off, right? You have to get to the roots of the issue and get your deeper why in order for you to decide really what you really want and then how you're going to implement it. And the accountability of your local village. I've seen it work at the college level. It's completely game-changing because you have a group of friends or family that are doing it together. Every time I talk about this subject, one spouse is angry at the other. You're addicted to your phone. No, you're addicted to your phone. And then the parents are looking at the teens like, no, you're addicted to your phone. Like, everyone's addicted in some capacity. This wasn't your fault, so you shouldn't feel shame or condemnation. We want to lead with incredible compassion. And I think the Humanality Village experience is going to go all over the world. And we're just at phase 1. We're about to launch this thing. But yeah, we have workbooks that work you through each episode. It's incredibly detailed. It's a real life-changing protocol that, just like you did with the detox with Hallow, this is a way deeper dive. You can do it in 3 months, 6 months, or a year, depending on what pace you and your family or friends want to do. And I'm super excited about that. It's a lot of time and effort went into synthesizing the information. I interview top experts around the world, MDs, PhDs, on all these topics. And yeah, I'm really excited for that to come out in
Me too.
the next couple months.
Me too. I can't wait to sponsor a group myself or have one locally.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. That's actually very, very exciting. You've covered my next 4 questions actually with that.
Nice.
So, I probably it's been an hour. I don't want to take too much of your time, but do you have a few more minutes?
Yeah, I probably got 10 more minutes.
Okay. So you very purposely use the term detox. That's a recovery term. And we've covered why, it's just every bit as addictive, digital media, or maybe more so than cocaine or alcohol or food or whatever. Assuming that the detox is successful, how do you stay clean? How do you stay the course with everything that's coming at you all the time? And you can answer as you personally, as Andrew, or if you're counseling someone.
Yeah, I mean, I can just say personally, it's been a journey. Like I had to go full detox because I was just so addicted to everything. And I didn't want to be addicted to porn. And I didn't want to keep comparing my life to everybody. And so I had to take radical steps. And honestly, I think most people are going to need to start with a radical step. So this is in the Nicomachean Ethics. And I think this is in a lot of different Stoic literature too. But in order to build a virtue, if you are really addicted to something, sometimes you have to go past that middle means in order to eventually swing back to that middle ground. Meaning, I had to go full flip phone, no social media in order to go past that point of means. And then again, I found that I couldn't moderate any of these platforms. And again, so to this point, I rarely use YouTube. I rarely listen to podcasts. I really try and read. That's my main source of information retention that I've been trying to implement. Now, listen, that took like 6 years for me to figure out. So I'm saving some people some time of the experiment. Like you will most likely need to go to two different devices that we recommend that we have relationships with. One is the Wise Phone by Techless. That is a smartphone hardware. It can do everything a smartphone can. It has Spotify, Waze, your flight apps, banking, email, but no internet. And it's a 99.99% porn-free device. So Techless has really done something incredible. That's a great device. And the other one I use is the Light Phone. So for me, this is like just the most basic tool, very fundamental, basic needs, everything else I do on my computer, laptop in Wi-Fi. Yes, there's moments of inconvenience. Yes, I do print boarding passes. And yes, I've had to use a Garmin GPS, for my car. So there's hacks, but I literally fly every week all over the world, somewhere. And it's totally manageable. And again, all the benefits, I'd say, supersede the inconvenience. So I would encourage people to, again, you might have to go past that middle ground, that means, in order to swing back and find that really healthy, virtuous place. So the device is a great place to start because that's what's attached to us at all times. Now, when you go through our village experience, we teach you to create times throughout the day where you are literally separated from the device. We have what we call desert days, which is literally one full day where you keep your phone in from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in a drawer, and you just tell your friends, family, whatever, like, hey, this is my desert day. If you want me to respond, I will respond to you after 8 p.m. kind of thing, Like we start to implement protocols that get you more and more freedom. But I think people have to start with where they're at, right? So if you have a smartphone, which most people do, you know what apps are sucking away your life. The one basic point of friction you can create is put Instagram on your laptop and make you have to log in and just take it off the device. That friction will create less of that convenience, which again, junk food is incredibly convenient. It's also going to kill you. So just because McDonald's is convenient doesn't mean you should be eating it every day. It's the same with social media and the smartphone. It's largely junk. It's largely junk. You don't want to consume it every day, even though it's convenient. So start small. Again, maybe it's one app, maybe it's two, maybe it's all of them. Maybe you got to go full steam ahead like me and just get rid of the thing and make the leap. But you have to do something. So here's what tends to happen with this. This is so overwhelming and terrifying to most people that they're like, I have nowhere to start, or it's just too scary. Like, we are soothing psychological stress through these devices to such a degree that it's terrifying to not have that drug, with us. So my encouragement is always, in order to get to know yourself, you got to start somewhere and you got to start simple. But if you know yourself like me, I couldn't do the simple detox. I had to go flip phone. I had to delete it all because I tried to time and I tried it all. Never worked. Pornography, did everything you can ever imagine to not look at it. But in my pocket was a library of pornography that had instant access to. I had to get rid of the device. So those are great places to start. And then you have to do it with people. This is why our villages are so effective. You have a group of people that are doing this together and you can talk about it. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I was like fiending the other day to just scroll, like, because I was so tired from work and I was just had a rough day and I wanted to scroll, but I couldn't. And then I was okay. And then I actually went and read a book, or I talked to a friend, or I made some tea, or made some food, or maybe watched a television show that was actually good and encouraging, So anyway, those are some ways I think you can start. But the reality is you can't do this alone. You have to do this with a village, with a local village of people that you see on a regular basis. So that would be my encouragement. You have to know yourself. For some of you, a little bit's going to be really helpful. For some of you, you literally need to go buy a light phone tomorrow. And just and then put the smartphone away. You don't have to go break it, even though you can, if you'd like. Put the smartphone away and just try 2 weeks, try 2 weeks, 14 days, and just see what it's like.
Yep. So this, as you're talking, I'm thinking my experience was, this is like the idea of compound interest. Like you don't believe how powerful it is once you start that chain reaction and it starts coming, the positive things start coming at you from every direction that you didn't.
Great analogy.
Yeah. So you won't believe how much you will love this, and you're overestimating how hard it is. If you can just get through the first few weeks, it really, you start thinking, how could I have lived that way? How could I have just freely given up my most precious resource of time and attention,
Hmm.
4 to 6 hours a day, to people that don't have my best interest in mind?
Hmm.
So I can't imagine going back.
Yeah, I have no, yeah, at this point, yeah, I have no desire. Obviously, we're going to grow a business in a really novel way by using the internet and a website and, trying to engage in different ways, like on podcasts and in-person speaking engagements. And yeah, we're early on the journey, but I'm excited to help as many people as I can. And I think that it's just a lot of preparation right now, right? Like it's been a lot of preparation, and I think God's going to blast us out here soon, and it's going to be a pretty fun ride.
Well, man, I'm infinitely, truly grateful to you for taking time. I know that taking an hour in your schedule must be a huge sacrifice. And I hope that this will help inspire people to log into humanality.org. And I actually personally can't wait to dig in and see, start a community and see, just compound on what I've already gained over the past month. So my deepest thanks to you, Andrew, for
Thanks,
everything
Doc.
that you do, man. Same to you. So we're going to post information about Andrew's website below, and Andrew and I can, if you probably, maybe I could talk to your assistant and get some hard resources on the books that you've recommended and things that we can
Totally.
post in the show notes. But
Yeah, and
anyway,
it's on our website too. Like, I have a bunch of the books, and our update's gonna probably be done again in like the next couple weeks. So you'll see a whole slew of updates there that we can reference to.
well, I again, very thankful to you. And thank you for listening to the Live the Path podcast today. If you've learned something, if you've been inspired today, we really would appreciate it if you share, like, and punch the subscribe button down below. We're going to say goodbye to Andrew. And again, Andrew, thank you, and best wishes for the years to come.
Thank you. You too.